On Gielinor, there is no shortage of secret organizations, pulling hidden strings from the shadows to fulfill their agendas away from scrutiny. These networks come in different sizes and potential, but few can match the sheer level of influence and capabilities of the Temple Knights. Their magical abilities dwarf that of the Order of Wizards, and their field agents make your average city guard or white knight look as threatening as a rubber chicken. In this third episode of the Questline Lore series, we'll be exploring the adventurer's induction and first assignments among Saradomin's elite knights. Make sure your communication orb is calibrated, because it's time to roll. The first quest we're going to examine, however, is Black Knight's Fortress. Although it's not officially part of the Temple Knights questline, they are two parts of the same story, so it's worth at least a summary. During the quest Black Knight's Fortress, the adventurer asks the leader of the White Knights and de facto ruler of Asgania, Ceramic Vase, for a quest, and is tasked with spying on the Kintra, more commonly known as the Black Knights, as they have been threatening the use of a new secret weapon. After the adventurer infiltrates their fortress disguised as a new recruit, they discover the Black Knights have in fact been working on a potion of invincibility so complex, its brewing has been years in the making. The final step in its creation was the addition of a very specific type of Drainer Manor cabbage. But the adventurer sabotages the weapon by covertly dropping a normal cabbage into the cauldron instead, completely ruining the potion. And now with that quick context in mind, let's explore their journey among the shadowy Temple Knight Order. Quest number 1. Recruitment Drive. The adventurer returns to Ceramic Vase, ready for another assignment. The knight has none to give at the moment, but he says there is an organization that is always looking for capable adventurers to assist them. Since the adventurer did a great job spoiling the Black Knight's secret weapon, the knight would be happy to write them a letter of recommendation. The adventurer eagerly accepts the offer, and Ceramic Vase admits he actually has already recommended them to this organization. The adventurer should go meet Certification in Falador Park to begin testing. They go to the park, where they meet the old recruiter. He is outrageously excited to meet the adventurer, telling them he was told everything about them and that they did a spiffing job with the Black Knight's secret weapon. He is, however, most surprised to learn that Ceramic Vase hasn't filled them in on the details of the organization they have been recommended for. An elite order allegedly founded by Saradomin himself, which answers only to him and only allows the very best to join its ranks. According to Certifi, the higher-ranking members of the organization have almost absolute power over this kingdom, their authority as Saradomin's knights outranking even that of the king himself. Certifi says the Temple Knights are looking for a certain type of person to join, saying they seek neither brainless muscle nor errand boys, but rather the top-shelf brains. The testing will unfold thusly. The adventurer will be taken to a secret training ground and go through 5 rooms with unique tests to assess if they are the right fit for the order. Every room is a self-contained puzzle, and the adventurer is forbidden from bringing any item with them, as the solutions must be reached solely with what can be found within the rooms. The Order has designed 7 different puzzle rooms, 5 of which the adventurer must randomly go through. Although one of them always involves fighting Surlays with their bare hands, so I'm not sure if the rest of the Order got the memo that they weren't looking for brainless muscle. The other possible puzzles involve things like observation and memory, handling and mixing chemicals, riddles, and logic puzzles. Their specifics aren't terribly relevant to the story, so go read the wiki if you're curious about them, I guess. The important part is that the adventurer manages to solve all of them, which was never really in doubt. I mean, just look at this beast. Following their flawless success, they are teleported back to Certification, who says that while the Temple Knights' head of operations, Surveillance, needs to personally evaluate their performance, he feels confident in welcoming the adventurer to the secret order already. They are granted an initiate salad, a whopping 3,000 coins, and most important of all, the smug satisfaction of knowing that they are intellectually superior to all those pathetic, lowly white knights. Their quest is complete. Quest number 2. Wanted. Oh wait, sorry. Wanted exclamation mark. The adventurer eventually returns to Certification, asking him if he has any jobs for them yet. The Temple Knight admits that there is a little problem with the adventurer's dossier. They are flabbergasted that the Temple Knights have a dossier on them, which makes Tiffy laugh as he replies they obviously have a dossier on everyone. It is their job after all. He says they made a tiny blunder when the adventurer was invited to join the Temple Knights. By ancient decree, only white knights are allowed to join the order. While the would-be recruit did that stuff with the cabbage and the potion, as they put it, Sir Tiffy clarifies that, technically, you performed a mission on behalf of the white knights, so you were never actually working for them. Unfortunately, the path to white knighthood involves a mandatory 5 years spent as a squire, but the Temple Knights want good recruits right now, and the recruiter says they've discussed the issue with their superior, Surveillance. Together, they came up with an alternative, if the adventurer is still interested. A loophole was found in the White Knight Charter. Sir Tiffy tells the adventurer not to worry about the details, but if they follow his instructions to the letter, it should work out for everyone involved. It's really very simple, he says. The adventurer must tell Ceramic Vase that they opted to join the White Knights rather than the Temple Knights after all. When he inevitably offers them to start as a squire as is required, they should decline and instead request to be deputized. The adventurer admits feeling a little uneasy about blindly following orders, but as we all know, actions speak louder than words. Therefore, they probably don't feel that uneasy about it, because they agree to the plan and make for the White Knight's castle. They tell Ceramic Vase that after some insightful soul-searching, they decided they desperately wanted to become a White Knight. Amic accepts and offers they become his squire. Would you like to spend 5 long years of your life doing pointless busy work without pay for me, on the off chance that at some point in the future I may put your name forward as a novice White Knight? The adventurer declines the offer, saying that they heard from some completely random stranger that was definitely not certification as part of an elaborate ruse to fast-track their application, that they could potentially be deputized by Ceramic himself in order to skip the squire part. I can see why the Temple Knights want them so badly. They're clearly born for spy work. Ceramic says that is true, but is shocked that the adventurer would know about it, as it is supposed to be a secret of the White Knight's order. He agrees that the adventurer is indeed a fine adventurer, and a perfect candidate as a deputy. Yet no matter how infatuated he personally is, this step can unfortunately only be taken during a crisis, and there is currently none unfolding. The adventurer says they'll be right back, as they need to ask nobody in particular if they can organize nothing at all to happen. Before they leave, Ceramic Vase calls them strange. Can't imagine why. The adventurer reports back to Tiffy, saying there is no crisis to justify their deputization. I assume you can arrange a small crisis for me, they add. Yet, there is in fact no need to make such arrangements. There is a particularly vicious and dangerous criminal currently at loose, he explains. Ceramic Vase has already been notified, so the adventurer should go back to him quickly and return immediately to be equipped for the hunt. Is all this back and forth strictly necessary? Asks the adventurer, pointing out that this could have been sorted out before they even went to Ceramic Vase in the first place. Tiffy replies that sometimes the indirect route is the best in this line of work. An F-tier justification if there ever was one. Returning to the topic of the criminal at loose, he says he and his friends are extremely dangerous, but the adventurer would be a crucial asset on their side. If he has no reason to suspect they are a Temple Knight, he would likely conclude that they are merely a White Knight, which could make him lower his guard and underestimate the adventurer's abilities. The adventurer again goes to Ceramic Vase, who immediately thanks Saradomin for their return and begs for their help dealing with a great threat. His scouts have confirmed that the evil Solus Delagar has returned to Asgarnia and has somehow acquired dangerous new magics that we are powerless against. He calls him an infamous murder mage, saying he spent years causing chaos and terror in Asgarnia until he was finally caught and exiled for his crimes. The adventurer inquires as to why he wasn't executed or imprisoned if he's so dangerous. "Kill an unarmed foe?" exclaims Ceramic Vase. "That is not the way of Saradomin, nor of the White Knights." As for imprisonment, Solus is a notoriously resourceful mage, and it's doubtful that any cell could have kept him captive for long. He adds that he does not want the adventurer to go against their code and kill Solus, but if in the moment they see no other way to stop him, then, it is what it is. The adventurer wants to know about the actually important part. If he goes after this great threat to public safety, what's the reward going to be? Ceramic Vase reveals his convincing negotiator side, replying that they would help keep Asgarnia free of malicious influence and perform a good deed in the name of King Valens and of the White Knights. The adventurer is unimpressed and asks about any actual reward. The knight replies that Saradomin teaches that a good deed is its own reward, but the adventurer presses the issue further until Ceramic Vase settles on one last offer. They will be deputized as a White Knight and feel a warm glow inside of having done the right thing. Yeah, that is a typo, by the way. He meant for having done the right thing. The adventurer points out warm glows can't buy things, but still agrees to help catch Solus, saying there's nothing I like more than fighting. Also cold hard cash based on this conversation. They'll begin the hunt as soon as they're deputized. Ceramic does so, officially making the adventurer a deputized White Knight. The adventurer asks where they should begin the search for Solus, and Ceramic Vase helpfully offers the following advice. "I haven't the faintest idea. Good luck." The adventurer goes to Sir Tiffy, saying the plan worked perfectly and that they are ready to go after Solus. The knight warns them he is among the most dangerous men in the world, as he is a prodigious mage and quite mad. "So, dragonhide armor and an elemental shield and I'm laughing?" replies the adventurer. Sir Tiffy says it's not that simple, and I guess we're just gonna gloss over how he would even know what an elemental shield is, but maybe the Temple Knight archives have some information about them, so fine, he gets the benefit of the doubt. He tells the adventurer not to engage Solus in combat under any circumstances. Their job is simply to track him down until he is cornered, whereupon a field recovery team can be sent after him. But in order for them to track the criminal, Sir Tiffy says they'll need to get something for him first, before they can be properly equipped for the mission. "We teach our operatives the value of their equipment by making them pay for it," explains the old man, and therefore the adventurer must either give him the money or materials required in the equipment's creation. The Temple Knights have a great scam going on, making money off of their operatives before they're even sent on a mission. This flies over the adventurer's head though, as they happily oblige. They are then granted a Temple Knight communication orb, also known as a comm orb. No, stop laughing, it's with an O, alright? A device which sends various data about the owner's surroundings to their assigned information operatives at the Temple Knight's headquarters in real time. Sir Tiffy tells the adventurer that the agent attached to them is a woman with the call sign Savant, which he suggests they contact as soon as possible to begin the hunt for Solus. The adventurer leaves the park, ready for the mission. They attempt to communicate through the orb and are greeted by Savant. The agent brings up the mission's file and is shocked to discover that her new partner is going after Solus Delagar himself, which she describes as an incredibly dangerous criminal with a touch of madness. The adventurer should tread very carefully, as they have been given an extremely tough first assignment, which honestly fits really well in my scam theory. Make your new agent pay you, then send them on a mission that ensures they die before you have to pay them anything in return? I'm telling you, there's something fishy here. Anyway, Savant tells the adventurer the comm orb has a scan function that will help them find Solus's location, although its range is quite limited and they will need to figure out where to look first. Looking into the Temple Knight files on Solus, she finds 2 recent visual recordings of the criminal. One shows that he was cited by Lord Dacarius Renard, head of the Kinshra, that's the Black Knights in case you forgot, in his lair located deep inside the Taverley dungeon. The other recording shows him talking with some Zamorakian mage that runs a rune smuggling business between the wilderness north of Edgeville and Varrock, which will sound awfully familiar to those of you who watched my last questline lore video on the Order of Wizards. The adventurer begins their hunt with these first leads, heading over to Taverley and descending underground into its vast dungeon. They use the agility shortcut to save some time, proud of themselves for having grinded that skill early on, only to get KO'd by some unfortunately timed dragonfire attack from one of these blue dragons. Skill issue if you ask me. They return soon after with their dreams of maxing as a hardcore account dashed. They reach the impressive but inconveniently located Kinshra base and address Lord Dacarius. They have the great idea of telling him up front they're here on behalf of the White Knights, which Dacarius is not very happy about. But when they add that it's about a friend of his, he realizes this is about Solus. That monster is no friend of mine, if indeed such a creature even has friends, says the Black Knight. However, he refuses to help the White Knights find him, as neither party is a friend of his, and he has no interest in helping any of them. I'm sure I could make you tell me where he is, threatens the adventurer, utterly failing to intimidate the man. He replies he does not care for his own life, and stands only for the protection of the Kinshra. Savant has been following the conversation and intervenes. She says Lord Dacarius is telling the truth, and the adventurer will gain nothing by starting a fight with him in his lair, although the Temple Knight's records suggest he cares deeply for the safety of his men. Armed with the information, the adventurer shows their commitment to the law and justice we've all come to expect from the righteous followers of Saradomin, god of order and wisdom, by murdering a Black Knight in cold blood right in front of Lord Dacarius. He begs them to stop, and says he will tell them what they want if they leave his men alone. The adventurer tells them to reveal Solus's location, or they will put every Black Knight here to death in front of you. Yeah, this whole section is seriously messed up. Dacarius relents. While he is unaware of Solus's exact whereabouts, he says that the last time they met, the wanted man accidentally left some fur behind when he left. As he doesn't have a fursona, he's unsure what kind of fur it was, but he's at least certain it wasn't bear fur. Savant tells the adventurer that the comm orb is equipped with magic that enables the monitoring of nearby people's physiology, and the Black Knight leader is likely to be truthful, as he is displaying none of the typical tells of someone telling a lie. She suggests the adventurer should explore their other lead. The information they gained from the Kinshra was a little underwhelming, but hey, at least all it cost was one innocent's life. The adventurer goes to the Mage of Zamorak in the Varrock Temple and tells him they're looking for information about a very dangerous man, whom the Zamorakian met recently. The mage says he assumed they mean that accursed Solus, and asks if they are working for the Temple Knights. The adventurer can't even try to tell him otherwise before he adds, "No, don't deny it. I recognize the magical signature of your communication orb. A very nice piece of equipment indeed." He is willing to spill the beans on everything he knows in exchange for the device, which he believes could be very useful in my research. Savant categorically refuses to allow the Zamorakian to acquire a piece of Temple Knight equipment, pointing out that the security measures built into their research mean that even if they allow the ZMI to access it, the information would self-destruct instantly. The adventurer relays to the mage that the orb is unfortunately not theirs to give, and the mage admits they didn't actually expect them to go through with the trade, but it was worth a try. He is happy revealing what little information he has, just to ensure Solus is disposed of, but he is financially distraught at the moment due to a recent incident, by which he means Solus robbed him of both some research and his money. He says the research part is fine, as it's still safely stored inside his own mind, but the money was essential for my experimentation. He is not begging for money up front. Instead, he says some rune essence would be enough for him to craft some new runes so we can resume smuggling them and financially recover. The adventurer fetches a bunch of rune essence and gives them to the mage. Satisfied, he reveals that he was able to sense Solus's aura pretty well, since he is a powerful magic user, and the mage is convinced that after their meeting, he went somewhere to the east. Savant says she's stumped as to their target's whereabouts, unsure where they'd find furry animals of some kind somewhere east of Varrock. The adventurer, on the other hand, has a solid hunch as to that location. Canifis, a town in Mauritania filled with werewolves dressed as humans, satisfying both criteria. They cross the Salve River with all haste, and when they reach the outskirts of Canifis, Savant performs a scan whose results leave her perplexed. She confirms there's indeed something here. She finds the reading strange, yet oddly familiar. But then it hits her. Years ago, Temple Knight studied a weird dimension accessible when teleporting. The experiments turned out to be dangerous and unpromising, so the research was stopped. But Savant says, our initial studies showed that we could use the entire dimension as a kind of scrying glass to see a precise point where we wish to teleport to, then teleport extremely slowly between 2 points. And during that teleportation, you are stretched so thinly between dimensions that you effectively become invisible. Furthermore, during the process, the caster can see 3 places at once and may travel between them at will. The adventurer is a little confused, so Savant explains that you can be in 2 different locations and be able to choose between them, yet invisible to people in both of them. Once you concentrate on your preferred location, it becomes the one you end up in. But despite how promising this discovery was, the research was abandoned due to the 3rd location, a strange, empty dimension that teleports seem to pass through. This was a problem, as the human mind isn't equipped to cope with processing so much information simultaneously, and the test subject started to display behavioral problems. These side effects made it impossible to justify further testing. Savant says the readings she is getting aren't exactly the same, but are unsettlingly similar. If the adventurer uses the Comorb scan function, she may be able to prevent Solus's teleportation through it by pulling him out of the in-between state, although he might end up teleporting to the secondary location instead. The adventurer scans a few areas around the town, until one of the scans unceremoniously reveals a man dressed in red, Solus Delagar. While he is genuinely surprised to have been pulled from his spell, he says he has been expecting the White Knights to go after him, but he's not going to get caught that easily. He teleports away before anything can be done, but Savant manages to extract an item that was alongside him in the teleportation. Following the lead of the item recovered, the adventurer goes on a hunt that tests their deduction abilities and takes them all over Gillinor. Each time they discover Solus's new location, the criminal escapes again using the slow teleport's alternative destination, often demonstrating his renowned resourcefulness by using various creative methods to distract or fool his pursuers. Yet every failure to capture him allows Savant to tweak the Comorb's magic and learn how to counter more of his tricks, bringing the duo ever closer to success. After Solus slips through the net for a 6th time, the item recovered by Savant is a handful of pure essence. The adventurer goes to the rune essence mine, finding Solus there as expected. "I am so sick of your interference," hisses the wizard. But this time, he makes no attempt at escaping. "It is time we end this once and for all," he says, which the adventurer very much agrees with. Savant summons a Temple Knight Special Force unit to the mine, and their target is completely surrounded. Yet his reaction is far from what the Knights expected. He lets out a genuine laugh as he casts the mother of all ice spells, slaying the entire force in one swoop. The adventurer is spared, having had the good sense of standing outside the spell's range. Savant says no more men can be teleported right now, but Solus has been extremely weakened by the incredible burst of magic he deployed. There will not be a better opportunity to complete their mission. It's now or never. The adventurer does not let him recover his strength, engaging the exhausted criminal. Even in this state, their foe is no pushover. but the Temple Knight recruit ultimately overcomes the opponent, landing a killing blow that sends the man to the floor. Solus de la Ga's escape attempts have come to an end. The kid is well and truly sitting. The adventurer brings the wanted man's hat to Ceramic Vase, giving the kingdom of Asgania some very welcome closure for one of its most worrying threats. They are now officially a White Knight and have access to the White Knight Armory, as long as they pay for the equipment, since the order is not as rich as it once was. How lucky! But more importantly, their quest is complete, and a completed quest is its own reward. Quest number 3, Sea Slug. During one of their garden variety adventures, the adventurer comes upon a woman named Caroline north of Witch Haven. She pleads for the stranger's help. Her husband works on a fishing platform and takes Kenneth, their son, out on the platform once a week. They usually write to Caroline regularly, but it has been a full week without any news, which is very unusual for them. Additionally, the other townspeople have all failed to receive news from their own contacts on the platform, and concern is growing. She asks the adventurer to investigate the platform and find out what's happening. When they accept, Caroline thanks them and directs them to her friend Holgart, who can take them to the fishing platform on his boat. She promises to reward the adventurer if they can figure out what's going on. The adventurer goes to Holgart, and a first problem arises. His boat is riddled with holes and no longer seaworthy. This is easily fixed a few moments later when the adventurer returns with some swamp tar, which Holgart uses to patch up the leaks. The two set out for the nearby fishing platform. Once they arrive, it becomes clear something is very wrong with this place. The fishermen present look unwell and walk around aimlessly like zombies. Just as strange are the many odd-looking slugs crawling around on the platform. The adventurer goes up the ladder north of the platform to investigate its second level. There they find a single small building in which they discover a child hiding behind some boxes. The kid is none other than Caroline's son, Kenneth. He tells the adventurer the fisherman started acting strangely and attempted to throw both him and his dad into the sea a few days ago. His father told him to hide here while he was getting help, but he never returned to get Kenneth. The adventurer tells him they will find his father, but until then, he should remain hidden in this place. The adventurer goes back down the ladder, sharing what they found with Holgart, who says the fishermen don't seem to recognize him, even though he's familiar with all of them. Caroline's husband is nowhere to be found though, so they decide to leave the platform and go look for him. Holgart and the adventurer sail to a tiny island between Entrana and the fishing platform, where they spot an unshaven and rough-looking Kent with the wrecked remains of a boat. He is very happy to see his rescuers, as he thought he'd be stranded there forever. He says he couldn't risk bringing Kenneth along, as he was already aware the rowboat wasn't seaworthy, which is presumably why he ended up here. He goes into what happened on the platform. 5 days ago, the fishermen pulled a big catch. Their net was full of fish, but alongside them were small slug-like creatures, hundreds of them. Following the event, the men's behavior changed. According to Kent's observations, the sea slugs attach themselves to your body and somehow take over the mind of the carrier. The adventurer agrees to go back and rescue the man's son, their confidence inflated from their newly tightened grasp on the situation. Yet they only take a few steps before Kent stops them abruptly, patting somewhere on the adventurer's body and pulling a sea slug from it. A few more minutes and that thing would have full control of your body, he tells them. Our hero is grateful for this close call and resumes their departure with their confidence slightly shaken again. Once they're at the fishing platform again, the adventurer is running back to Kenneth when a fisherman approaches them. You are not part of our family. Soon you will be. Soon you will. She is coming. The adventurer pulls themselves away from the unsettling encounter, but as they try to access the second floor, a fisherman guarding the top of the ladder pushes them back down with a fishing rod whenever they attempt to climb the ladder. Frustrated, they investigate the rest of the first floor and find what seems to be the only other fisherman to be free of the slugs' influence. Bailey, a worker who tells them the others have all gone mad and tried to throw him into the sea too. The adventurer explains they're trying to save Kenneth but can't get past the afflicted man blocking the ladder. Bailey says, "The sea slugs are scared of heat. I figured that when I tried to cook them." That is kinda gross, my dude. He gives the adventurer a torch, which he says should repel the fisherman, but there is one issue. He has been unable to light the torch as everything around is too damp to be lit on fire. The adventurer endeavors to improvise, adapt, and overcome. They grab some broken glass, using it to somehow dry some damp sticks. By rubbing the dry sticks, they manage to light the torch. # not survival advice. They reattempt to access the second floor. When he sees them brandishing a flaming torch, the guard backs up and lets them onto the second floor. The adventurer goes back to Kenneth, encouraging him by saying he'll soon be reunited with his father. But when he is told to come along so they can escape the platform, he refuses. "I'm scared of those nasty sea slugs." The adventurer will have to figure out a better escape plan to get him out. They kick down a patch of badly repaired wall and investigate the controls of a nearby crane, rotating it to create an escape route for the child. Kenneth grabs onto the crane and the adventurer lowers him to the first floor. That was definitely safer than running 10 more tiles. The adventurer makes their way back to Hallgard. He has already taken the boy to safety, rowing him to shore to his parents. Wait, seriously? That was really quick. Anyway, he and the adventurer get on the boat and leave this wretched place behind. Back in Witch Haven, the adventurer returns to Caroline, who thanks them profusely and says both her son and husband are back home. She rewards the adventurer with some oyster pearls, telling them they are valuable and can be used to make deadly crossbow bolts. And thus, roses are red, violets are blue. The reward was butt cheeks, but the quest is complete. Oh, and if you're wondering what on Gielinor this whole thing had to do with the Temple Knights, worry not, it'll make sense soon. Quest number 4. The Slug Menace. Sometime after the events of Sea Slugs and Wanted ! The adventurer asks Sir Tiffy if the Temple Knights have a job for them. He confirms that their application has finally been properly processed, now that they are officially part of the White Knights, and there is indeed a mission they can do. The adventurer is needed in Ardoyne, as there are reports of something happening in nearby Witch Haven. The adventurer is to meet with a retired Temple Knight, whose clearance is however still active, Colonial, for a briefing. They need to remember the Temple Knight code phrase, "In Falador, the geese fly backwards on Tuesdays." The adventurer comments that this sounds like a joke, but certification assures him the Temple Knights treat their work with the utmost seriousness. Before they leave for the assignment, the adventurer's comm orb is updated to reflect their current mission. The new Temple Knight finds Colonel O'Neill on the Witch Haven pier. They tell him Sir Tiffy sent them and repeat the code phrase, "In Falador, the geese fly backwards on Tuesdays." Colonial replies by asking if they are mad, clearly confused by the bonkers statement. But when the adventurer says they thought it was a Temple Knight code phrase, he remarks that Sir Tiffy still has his fun with the initiates. He is rather annoyed by the situation, saying, "I asked for a knight and I get a whelp." He tells the offended adventurer to call him Jake and briefs them on the situation. 3 weeks ago, the mayor called a town council meeting and was, according to Jake, acting a bit strange, like he'd taken a blow to the head or something. He announced his intention to renovate the shrine west of the town during the meeting, which Jake thought was odd as the mayor is as religious as a dead dog on a termite mound, as he so eloquently puts it. Yet even stranger to the colonel was that mining equipment and rune essence were being brought to the shrine, far beyond what's needed for a small village such as this. The adventurer says they will investigate, as that does sound suspicious. Furthermore, Jake claims that some of the villagers have been disappearing overnight and reappearing the next day in a dazed and confused state. And while they could just be getting drunk, it would be safer to investigate properly. The adventurer asks who the important people are in Witch Haven, and the colonel says there are only 3 of them the adventurer should consider talking to. Mayor Hobb, who has been looking unhealthy and whose behavior was the first to become weird. Brother Maledict, who is usually aware of the goings-on in the town since he speaks to many of its inhabitants. And someone the adventurer is already familiar with, Holgart, who Jake says he hasn't seen sail his boat lately, which he finds abnormal. The investigator goes to the... Hold on, wrong one. This investigator goes to the Witch Haven Church and speaks to Brother Maledict, who says he is a little concerned about his congregation drifting away, as fewer and fewer people have been attending church lately. He can't think of a reason why that would be, other than the mayor asking the townspeople to help on the shrine, and otherwise has little of note to share about the current situation. The adventurer goes to Mayor Hobb and comments that he looks a little hazy. He replies that he's just a little tired, as there is a lot of work to be done on the shrine to the west. Saradomin would be pleased, says the adventurer, but at the mention of the god, the mayor suddenly seems suspicious and asks the real reason for their presence in town. The adventurer says they're here to visit a friend, Jake O'Neill. And this all makes sense. Yes, this is very good, replies Hobb in a totally non-creepy way. Adding to the thoroughly normal situation, the adventurer realizes something. He addressed them by name, despite not having shared their name during the conversation. When confronted about this, the mayor attempts some half-hearted gaslighting by claiming the guest told him when they came in, but when the adventurer denies it, he simply says that it doesn't matter and that one of the villagers must have told him. The Fresh Temple Knight has a sneaking suspicion that Hobb may not be completely on their side, so they continue their investigation elsewhere. They go to Holgart, the man who ferried them to and from the fishing platform before. However, he tells them he can no longer sail due to breaking the mayor's Articles of Sailing. He explains his boat was requisitioned and granted to Jeb Wormwood, who he says is taking it to the fishing platform as they speak. He also claims the fishing platform got even stranger since the adventurer's last visit, and suggests they return there when they can. The adventurer returns to Colonial and tells him there's something concerning going on in town, summarizing the strange things they heard and witnessed. When they relate that Brother Maledict told them the shrine was aligned with Saradomin, Jake says the last time he was there was a very definite unpleasant feeling in the air. The colonel suggests investigating the shrine, and the adventurer agrees. They go down its entrance and check out its long underground tunnel, but all they find is a collection of dangerous creatures. Yet as they are returning to the surface, they stop near the exit stairs and push a nearby patch of wall, revealing a secret passage. They follow the path filled with giant lobsters until they reach large doors blocking the way. Savant tells them that the markings on the doors look familiar and they should try scanning the area with a comm orb. When she gets the results, the agent says the doors are in fact covered in what seems like ancient Saradomin runes she studied in the past. Her knowledge on the subject is not advanced enough to translate the markings, but there is a man who may be able to help, although he's not part of the Temple Knights. She directs the adventurer to Jorrel, a historian residing in the outpost northwest of Ardoyne. As they are leaving, the adventurer notices a dead slug near the entrance and picks it up to study it. Savant asks if they're okay, having detected the presence of a sea slug on their person. She's relieved to learn it's dead and uses the opportunity to scan it for analysis. She will share the results once they're available. The adventurer travels to the outpost, where they instigate a rather interesting conversation with Jorrel. In summary, he can only help in a month and for a vast sum because he's so busy. The adventurer has to beg Savant for help as they lack the creativity to come up with their own excuses. Jorrel is weirded out by them talking to their backpack, but it's okay because they're just receiving telepathic instructions from a wizard for sure. Savant figures out the Temple Knights are the owners of a front company who's keeping Jorol on retainer, so the adventurer tells him they're here on behalf of Petmel Books and need a document translated for them. The historian seems satisfied with the explanation, saying that explains the mild insanity. He agrees to examine the document right away, which he says is very interesting. It's an early variation on a script used by the priests of Saradomin a long time ago, he explains, before regurgitating his thoughts on the difference between its old grammar and the modern one. Kinda reminds me of myself at social events. The adventurer, however, has little patience for that nerd crap and cuts him off, saying they're only interested in the translation, thank you very much. Joral says the markings are about a great battle between the Temple of Saradomin and something called the Maheish Medron, or something like that. Although he believes this is a corruption of an even earlier language and actually means Mother Malum, so thank God I don't have to struggle with that pronunciation again. It says this Mother Malum was imprisoned behind a mystical prison where she was to wait for all time. The adventurer thanks Jorol for his assistance. You're welcome, he says, but recommends the adventurers seek medical assistance for the voices in their head. Once the Initiate Temple Knight is out of earshot, Savant tells them what they learned at the outpost was the final piece of the puzzle. Cross-referencing the name, Maheish Medron in the Temple Knight's archives allowed her to piece together some of the entity's history. It seems the Order has come across Mother Malum before. Centuries ago, we discovered that a great evil had taken control of some of the most influential people in the world. That great evil was the Mother Malum. Some knights who had avoided her corruption narrowly managed to find a way to sever the Slug's possession. Thanks to their heroic efforts, the Temple Knights, freed of her influence, pursued a great crusade to destroy the Mother Malum. But her powers were so great that the best they could realistically do was to trap her in a magic prison. The different threads of their investigation in Witchhaven all converge to one explanation. The Mother Malum is trying to break free once more. Savant believes their best bet is to repair or reinforce the magical seal before she succeeds. Unfortunately, the information regarding the prison itself has been lost in an accident. More on that later, it's kinda weird actually. But the point is, they should investigate in Witchhaven some more to find a solution. The adventurer returns to Colonial, telling him things are worse than they first believed. They summarize the Mother Malum story and explain that this powerful evil creature is almost certainly trapped underneath Witchhaven. Can't be a coincidence that the mayor is renovating the shrine. He must be preparing to break the Mother Malum free, reasons Jake O'Neill. He suggests speaking with Brother Maledict again, since the shrine has connections with Saradomin. Perhaps his religious knowledge can be of assistance. As the adventurer is heading to the town church, they witness Mayor Hobb leaving the building, and when they enter, they notice how Brother Maledict now looks rather sickly. When pressed on the matter, he says he's just a little tired because there is so much work, so much to do, mirroring what Mayor Hobb told the adventurer earlier. They tell the priest about the hidden passage in the shrine, asking if he might know something about what's behind its large doors. According to him, the shrine's history is contained within the Holy Book of Saradomin, but he has yet to read that part. Easy then, the adventurer thinks. All they need to do is to crack open that holy book and figure it out. However, Brother Maledict bursts their bubble by telling them the 3 pages containing the shrine's history have been very inconveniently stolen. The adventurer offers to find the missing pages, and the priest agrees that it is imperative that they be found. The adventurer begins their search in the shifty mayor's house. His study desk has a locked drawer whose lock they manage to pick, revealing a page of the book. Their investigation then takes them to the fishing shop east of the town. They tell its owner, Ezekiel Lovecraft, a name that is definitely not foreshadowing anything, that they are struggling to recover the stolen pages of Saradomin's holy book. Lovecraft produces a piece of paper, asking if the pages look something like this. It indeed turns out to be one of them. He says it was pushed under his door right before the adventurer showed up. but when he stepped outside to see who left it there, the culprit was already gone. The adventurer returns to Colonial, seeking some help for the last page. However, they are in for a grim surprise. "They got to you too, didn't they?" they tell the now sickly-looking retired knight. "Are you sure this is not some elaborate deception on my part to fool them?" he replies. The adventurer explains they are looking for the last missing page, but no longer know if the old man can be trusted. But everything is fine, as the page is in fact right here with Jake, which the adventurer remarks is very convenient. They take it and leave their potentially compromised colleague behind. One of the pages was torn in 3, and they are about to attempt using swamp paste to stick them back together when they are interrupted by Savant. She warns them that using an oil-rich substance will ruin the old parchment, but luckily there is an alternative. One would think the alternative would just be to lay them out on a table and read the text, but for some reason they're really hell-bent on reassembling the page. Savant says the analysis of the dead slug revealed that if you render the slug down, it will form a very sticky glue that will dry clear, although they will need to find someone who has years of experience in aquatic cooking, or it could go horribly wrong. The adventurer recalls Bailey, the fishing platform worker who tried cooking sea slugs, and they go find Jeb, the man who was granted Holgart's boat, hoping he can ferry them there. The man also looks afflicted, but he does agree to take them to the fishing platform. Once there, they make for the kitchen, where they get jump-scared by Bailey. The cook apologizes, saying he thought the adventurer was one of those fishermen. He has been scared and on edge since the sea slugs took over the platform. And if I were him, I'd also be pretty insulted that the adventurer didn't even bother getting him out in the last quest, but I guess he's a bigger man than I. The adventurer says they may have found a way to neutralize the source of the sea slugs, but the piece of paper containing the instructions has been torn in 3 and they need to stick it back together. Again, just lay it out on a table, man. But that would be too convenient, so instead they believe Bailey can help by rendering a dead sea slug down for glue. In what the cook calls uncanny timing, he has just made a batch of gumbo that cooked too long, becoming thick and sticky, which also happens to be exactly how I would describe a superior bloodveld. He says that would make for a perfect glue base. He takes the sea slug the adventurer found earlier and adds it to the mix, handing them some very gross glue once the process is complete. The adventurer assembles the 3 pieces and glues them back together, a much better solution than just putting them down on a flat surface. They are now in possession of the 3 pages relating to the Mother Malum prison, which teaches them how to shape and craft special runes meant to be inserted into the slots in the large doors to unseal them. Page 1 explains how to craft rune essence and channel their respective altars to create the earth and air runes, while page 2 deals with the fire and water runes, and page 3 the mind rune. The adventurer goes to the 5 altars and creates the special runes required. They then return to the large double doors they found hidden under the Witch Haven Shrine, and place each rune in the appropriate slot. The doors open to reveal none other than Mayor Hobb. At that moment, it dawns on the adventurer that they've been doing the corrupted mayor's dirty work by dissolving the Temple Knights' enchantment, which prevented anyone not working in their interests from opening it. Hobb introduces them to the Prince, a minion of the Mother Malum. The creature cannot be allowed to be let loose upon the world. The Temple Knight initiate fights it, and after a tough battle, manages to slay the monster. However, upon dying, the Slug Prince releases a sticky substance that glues the adventurer's feet to the ground, immobilizing them. Mayor Hobb is very upset by the prince's death. He says it will be reborn, and the adventurer is destined to now face the true wrath of the Mother Malum. And right on cue, the entity they've been after finally reveals itself as a giant slug appears behind the mayor. It appears to be controlling what seems like a deceased human body in order to communicate, telling Hobb to calm down and that they have prepared for this eventuality. He is ordered to go prepare the throne for our arrival, and obediently departs. The abomination turns her attention to the adventurer, letting them know their mind is like an open book to us. They have great potential, she says, and therefore she does not want to outright kill them. Instead, she believes the adventurer would make for a good extension of our will. saying that her
husk is almost spent and requires replacement.
The adventurer refuses to serve her. They will oppose her until the bitter end. This does not bother the Mother Malum in the slightest.
It's always so much sweeter when they resist us.
Savant tries to intervene and teleport them out of harm's way, but her spell fails repeatedly.
It's useless to resist. Now we shall become as one.
But just as she's about to throw herself at the adventurer, Savant finally figures out a way to teleport them away, narrowly rescuing them from a very horrific fate. The newest Temple Knight finds themselves in Falador. That was too close for comfort, they tell their attached agent, although they are very much glad to be unharmed. They go to Sir Tiffy and debrief him on the quest's events. He understandably thinks this is all very worrying, but believes the slaying of the Slug Prince should at least buy them some time before the evil Slug can execute her devious plans. If she follows her previous pattern, he says, her next targets will be Gillenor's prominent figures of power. He will make sure the Temple Knights redouble their vigilance and surveillance worldwide, and places the adventurer personally in charge of the mission due to their familiarity with the case. They are promoted to the rank of proselyte within the Order, giving them increased access to the Temple Knight's armory, although they are still too junior to be allowed at the secret Temple Knight headquarters. Certification tells the adventurer to report back later, once the Order's higher-ups have had some time to come up with a plan. Finally, he confirms that Colonial has been placed on the Knight's disavowed list, meaning the retired agent should be considered extremely dangerous and is to be killed on sight. And on this rather cheery note, the quest is complete. Which, incidentally, leaves us on a cliffhanger that has been left unresolved since 2006, and as far as I know there are no plans for a new quest in the series as of the time of writing. So I guess there's just been an evil Lovecraftian horror chilling under Witch Haven for the last 2 decades, and the Temple Knights are still debating what the heck should be done about it. I want some more fantasy James Bond missions, damn it. But don't go just yet, because here's some bonus lore appendices before we close this chapter of the adventurer's life. In Recruitment Drive, Certification admits having never personally met Saradomin, despite the group allegedly taking their orders from him, but says that their head of operations, Surveillance, has indeed met him, and that everything he tells the Knights to do is done with Saradomin's implicit permission, which sounds a little cult-like to me, and definitely open for abuse. In Wanted exclamation mark, if the adventurer tells Savant her name is unusual, she replies it's obviously a codename, duh, and that her real name is Elissa van Lendes. She says she is the SMR and chief librarian for the Temple Knights, meaning the senior mystical researcher. As a field agent liaison, she can pass useful information to and from the Temple Knights' elite magic research team. She says her team was responsible for the design of the experimental devices such as the comm orbs and spy orbs, which are now standard field equipment. She explains that she's always had a gift for magic and has dedicated her life to finding ways to apply it for the Order's benefit. The adventurer is curious as to why she didn't end up somewhere such as the Wizard's Tower instead, and she replies that the mages who work there are idiots, and told her that as a girl, she would be too scared to work in the field of magical research. The Temple Knights, on the other hand, were open-minded and grateful for her contribution and skills. Savant can also tell the adventurer about the legend of the Temple Knights Foundation. It goes that Saradomin himself once walked the land and shared his wisdom with men to help them grow wiser. However, there came a war that shattered our lands, and the interloper banished our land from us. But Saradomin had prepared for such an event, and had laid plans in secret amongst his most devout followers, the latter becoming the first Temple Knights, as they were the knights that guarded his very first temple. The Order garnered much respect and authority, as they were known as some of the best. But after Saradomin left the land, the Temple Knights were no longer honored and respected by all, instead becoming prime targets of those opposed to Saradomin and being driven from the lands unjustly, forcing them to become a secret organization that could strike against evil in his name swiftly and quietly whenever they may be needed. During the Slug Menace, if Jake O'Neill is asked about the town of Witchhaven, he says it used to be a bustling industrial town until the fishing platform was built. He says its large-scale operation took away the business from the little guys there, and almost overnight Witchhaven became a ghost town. The adventurer argues that, while this is sad for the town, you can't stand in the way of progress, but Jake replies that bigger is not always better. I guess he would know about such things. If asked about the town's shrine, Brother Maledict says it existed even before Witchhaven, calling it one of its wonders. I don't know why he pluralized it though, because I don't see many other wonders around. I guess the church looks quite pretty. The shrine was abandoned when the village was founded, and since then, it has fallen into disrepair and other less savory elements have moved in. The priest also describes the population as hard-working and generous, although they seem to have become a little different in the past few weeks, becoming apathetic and wandering the village aimlessly. He also says the mayor has been a man beset by worries since the opening of the fishing platform, and that he only wishes to avoid the town's financial collapse. But as we've seen, I think he has some other plans in mind. And finally, the reason the Temple Knights' information regarding the Mother Malam's prison was lost was apparently because a dragon once landed on their headquarters and burned down some of their records. That raises a few interesting ideas for me. We don't know of many flying dragons, so could it be Elvarg or some other dragonkin creation? Was it a coincidence, or were the Temple Knights' archives deliberately targeted? To be fair, we'll probably never get any of these answers, but here's some lore ideas to explore free of charge if you ever expand on the Temple Knights questline, Jagex. And that brings us to the end of the video. As always, thank you so much for watching, your support means the world to me. And as of the release of this video, if you're feeling extra supportive, there is now a channel membership option. I set the first tier to the lowest amount YouTube allows, and it will give access to videos 3 days early. And there's also a second tier for those wishing to give even more. That one comes with your name at the end of the videos and weekly updates on the videos I'm working on. I never want to gatekeep content, I really don't like the idea, but I still wanted to give a little something for those who want to toss a coin to their neighborhood lorekeeper. But honestly, if you're still watching, you're already greatly helping out the channel, so thanks again, you beautiful beast. I'll see you in the next one.